If you are unsure where to do that, just log into College Board, create a free student account. I literally have one and I'm in my 30s and they don't really care. Then I would go in and analyze my personal score. I would write down all the stuff I got wrong, and then I would work on myself to try to improve my score. And hands down, I literally swear by packages for test prep, not for regular tutoring, but for test prep. And the reason is, it's very simple, is whenever there is a set number of sessions, the parents and the students are a little bit more invested. Are you a high school teacher or just a super smart college kid who is interested in teaching the SAT material? If so, what I'm going to go over in this video is how I teach in tutor test prep for the SAT test, and also to share a little bit of tips and tricks on how to get you organized and started. If you're wondering, the SAT is alive and well. There's been some schools going test optional, but at least in the US, things have still been picking up with test prep. My name is Rebecca Beard. I own a local tutoring company and I do a gross amount of test prep. I actively take the test with the kids, and we have a team of over 40 teachers that span K through 12. I've been actively training my team on how to do test prep as well. The SAT test, depending on the region, is really helpful. And so yeah, this video is going to be covering that. This is going to be my systematic approach to help with the SAT test. If you are interested in learning more, I am putting a full course together. I will link kind of a newsletter sign up below that is going to keep people updated on when this course is going to be live, because it's still being worked on, but I'm hoping to keep people updated and getting it done really soon. Okay, so the first thing, if you want to tutor the SAT test, is actually take a practice test yourself, and maybe even two. If you are unsure where to do that, just log into College Board, create a free student account. I literally have one and I'm in my 30s and they don't really care. Take some of the blue book practice tests. Take it timed, take it serious, and then that's going to kind of get your feet wet. Then I would go in and analyze my personal score. I would write down all the stuff I got wrong, and then I would work on myself to try to improve my score. Doing that foundationally is super, super helpful because it kind of gets your feet wet. You get to tutor yourself, and you'll be a little bit more prepared when it comes to the students. And then if you're unsure where to start on the blue book, College Board test, I always say start at the top, as in the biggest number, because those are typically the new ones. And as I'm filming this today, number 10 is typically where I start. Even if you made a perfect score in your SAT, I would still do that, especially if it's been a couple of years. Now, if you're a high school kid that just made a perfect score, then obviously that's different. But if you are a high school teacher, then absolutely please go take a practice test. It has changed substantially. Okay, so you've done that, you've tutored yourself, and you're ready to go on and get some clients. So this video is not more on client acquisition, but it's more to how to organize your pricing and to go from there. So in our center, I have done different things. I've done ongoing test prep, and then I've also done packages. And hands down, I literally swear by packages for test prep, not for regular tutoring, but for test prep. And the reason is, it's very simple, is whenever there is a set number of sessions, the parents and the students are a little bit more invested. They know that there's a stop date, and yes, there's a test coming up, but they also want to maximize as much as possible. So most of the time, not always, but most of the time, the student and the parent are more bought in. So what we do is, if they run out of sessions and they're a repeat client, then we give them a 20% off discount, and then they can refill their sessions, and they're incentivized to do more if that works in our schedule. We range between 3, 5, and 10 sessions, but kind of the sweet spot is going to be 5 SAT sessions to improve your score. If you go in large and hard, then you will be able to move that score in just literally 5 sessions. What I would do, really project to the parents is hey, we're going to start with 5 sessions, and then we're going to kind of pivot from there and see where we are at, because I want to make the most out of this 5 sessions. Why don't I sell 10? Well, the thing is, if you can do a lot in 5 sessions, then you can actually up your price. So right now, my one-on-one price for me is $175 an hour. It will likely go up again, and I see a lot of people in the 200s because they have maximized their sessions. They're able to take more kids, and the kid overall is having a stronger session, and there's just a lot of accountability built in. Okay, so before you meet your kid, let's say you found your kid, you posted on Facebook, whatever. You meet your kid, you sold 5 sessions, great. And I always say pre-sale, we use a jot form form, and it's really cheap to do that. And so what I would suggest is actually making binders for you and your student. And even if you have no idea what the student makes on the SAT, I kind of make all my binders to start off the exact same way. So in that binder, it's really simple. You want to print out a PDF of the answer key and a PDF of a SAT practice test. They're all free on the College Board. And then you want to print out any cheat sheets. I always print out calendars so they can map out their little study plan. And then maybe a couple sheets of like record of errors. And then on their calendar is where I write like assigned homework and stuff like that. So on the first meeting, our whole goal is to assess and use Diagnostic. So what I do is I print out or I go over their score report, and sometimes they don't have it before. And so they log in and I literally explain the different categories on the score report, and then a little bit more time of what's going to be the most bang for their buck to improve their score. And then what I do is I spend a lot of time working and doing diagnostic materials. I am doing that full-blown printed out SAT practice test, and then we are doing it in small increments. What I do is I typically start with math. That seems to be where everyone wants to start. So I start with the math section of the practice test, and I go page by page. Go ahead and do those 3 questions. Sometimes I put it on a timer, sometimes I don't. It depends on the kid. And then we go over, and then we rinse and repeat. So what we're doing at that time is we're kind of double whamming. I am recording a lot of the things that the kid needs to work on, but then I'm also teaching the kid to write down, especially on math, on different formulas that they need to remember. And then as the SAT test goes on and it's increasing and how much harder it is, from there I am going ahead and scaffolding those math questions. I'm showing them a page and I'm like, hey, before you get to this page, this is kind of my tips and tricks on how to start that. So what you're doing is you're building up confidence, you're collecting their record of errors that need to be worked on, and then you're kind of guiding them to success. And some people push back about that. They're like, well, I don't want my kid to do just a practice test. You're not really just giving them a practice test and sliding it over. You are doing in small increments with them. And so I typically have kids do anywhere from 3 to 5 questions on their own, and then we go over each time. They're getting automatic feedback. They're feeling like they're learning something, and I'm giving them tips and tricks along the way. You want them to use their own brain and then not just ask you on every single question. That's what I stomp on, and I'm like, no, I need you to answer all the questions before we go over. And then the second meeting is I do the other section. I'm going to rinse and repeat with the ELA section. So if I've done math, I'm going to switch to ELA, and I'm going to do that exact same thing. I'm going to do that print out blue book, that like practice test. We're going to do the ELA. I'm going to be walking through the record of errors. What I commonly do also with the ELA section is most people are really like low scores on grammar, is I give them a bunch of grammar hacks, which I'm working on a video for that on my like regular tutoring channel of like all the grammar hacks that they need to know for the SAT. And there's actually not that many. It does take a little bit of time, but what you're doing is you're giving the questions in small doses, you're giving them a little tips on how to start it, and you're giving them a little insight to the test, so they're feeling a little bit more comfortable. So that's the first and the second meeting, and you're hitting on both subjects. Now, if you're only hitting on one subject, then you obviously pivot from there. If you have a kid that absolutely bombed the snot out of math, then you can do this twice on a math or vice versa. And then the third meeting is we are diving into math and ELA topics. So what I am doing is I am going to the educator question bank and I am pulling material that they are really struggling in. I'm printing it out and I'm giving it to them. Or if I notice they can't do triangles to save their life, I'm going in through that as well. I'm also teaching them how to use and hack the SAT Desmos exam. I do that a lot in the third meeting, but we're just spending a lot of time going into like hacks, deep topics, and all that stuff. Yes, I only do hour-long sessions, and we go through a lot with that. So I do a little bit of more prep before that session so that they're ready, and then I send them home with work as well. The fourth meeting, what we are doing is we are competing. And so I have my laptop open and the student has their laptop open, and we are doing a blue book module 1 and module 2 of the ELA or the math. I let them choose. And them and I are spending time working independently for 15 minutes, and then we are kind of competing to make sure that we got all the questions right. And then we'll shift and then do module 2, the super challenge questions on the ELA. And then our fifth meeting, we are doing a Blue Book practice test that is going to be going over all of the math, and we are doing it at the same time. And so what I'm doing in that 4th and 5th meeting is we are practicing doing the Blue Book test together, and they really like that. And then what we're doing is we're collaborating at the end, checking notes, comparing answers, and then I'm giving tips and tricks and kind of checking their work on how they're going. And the SAT is a tricky test. You might not know perfectly every single answer, but you can pre-work this stuff before you feel better. And once you've done some of these practice tests multiple times, you kind of have it memorized. And what I also like about Blue Book practice tests together is they are getting real time pacing throughout those tests. I'm going over how I'm approaching something. Then we get a lot of questions on what to give for homework. So for us, we have an AI SAT platform. That's been really helpful, but not all of our parents have access to it. I'm sometimes pulling like sections that they're really struggling for on the Educator Question Bank, which is completely free, or I'm pulling more practice test material and I'm highlighting the snot out of what they need to complete. Like if I know they've missed literally every single Pythagorean theorem problem, then I'm going from there. And then I always am a big proponent of giving homework as they leave. The parents like it and the students like it. And what I've learned is I write in the front of their binder so the student doesn't come back and be like, they didn't give me homework. I tell all parents that I always give light paper homework, but if they want more, that's when I suggest using a third-party resource. Like I said, I use an SAT AI platform, but there's a lot of other resources out there that you can partner with. That being said, like I said, I am fleshing out a full course that's going to go way more into these different types of topics. It's going to teach you how to read a score report, and I do want to do some coaching. We are currently doing it in our office because I'm getting maxed out, and I want more of my teachers to be able to do this. I deeply believe that if you are a high school teacher, either in math and ELA, you likely can handle this. You just need a little bit of the skills and training. So there is a link below where you can put in your email address and be in the loop with updates and all that stuff, and feel free to shoot any comments or any topic ideas for the next video. Thanks again.